Good evening, I'm Polly Middlehurst with your latest news headlines. And Boris Johnson says the picture on Ukraine's border is increasingly concerning as he urges Russia to avoid a reckless and catastrophic invasion. The Prime Minister's considering doubling the number of troops deployed to strengthen Europe's borders. However, the Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, says it's very unlikely that British soldiers will fight alongside Ukrainians. Here, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor insist the rise in national insurance planned for April is the right thing to do. That's despite opposition parties and some Conservative MPs saying it should be halted due to an increase in the cost of living. Writing in the Sunday Times, Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak said the 1.25% national insurance rise will help clear the NHS backlog. A man in his 20s has been arrested on suspicion of rape and assault after Manchester United suspended the footballer Mason Greenwood following allegations on social media. Greater Manchester Police say they're aware of online social media images and videos posted by a woman reporting incidents of physical violence. Manchester United have announced that Greenwood will not train or play for the Premier League club until further notice. Mr. Greenwood has yet to respond to the allegations. Relatives of the victims of Bloody Sunday have held a remembrance walk in Northern Ireland to mark its 50th anniversary. It's one of a number of events being held in the city of Londonderry. 13 people were killed when members of the British Army's Parachute Regiment opened fire on a civil rights march on the 30th of January 1972. And around 7,000 homes are still without power this evening due to Storm Malik impacting parts of the UK. High winds caused structural damage and ruptured power lines, with 2 people losing their lives yesterday due to falling trees. A new weather front, Storm Corrie, is now affecting parts of northern Scotland and Ireland, and an ABBA weather warning has been issued with winds of up to 80 miles an hour forecast for Scotland. Just lastly, sport. Rafa Nadal has secured a historic 21st Grand Slam title after winning the Australian Open. He now holds the highest number of Grand Slams ever, beating his longtime rivals Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer by 1 title. He described the gruelling 5-hour match in Melbourne against world number 2 Daniil Medvedev as one of the most emotional games of his career. Congratulations to him. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. Now more from Mark Dolan and Tonight.
It's Sunday, January the 30th. You're watching and listening to Mark Dolan Tonight, and what a corker of a show we've got for you. In just 1 minute's time, I will give you my final definitive verdict on Boris Johnson, in my big opinion. Which way am I going to go? Should he stay, should he go? Find out shortly. My Mark Meets guest is one of the biggest football agents in the country. Sky Andrew joins us on the eve of Football Transfer Day. Why is the Premier League the richest competition in sport? He's got quite the story to tell. You won't want to miss him at 10. In the big question, with Asda selling a £1 engagement ring, that's right, £1, and with one-night stands through the roof as a result of the pandemic, is the age of romance dead? We'll speak to top dating expert Kezia Noble and Apprentice star and contestant in the new series of Celebs Go Dating, Ryan Mark Parsons. What do you think is the age of romance dead? Let me know. Plus, another great British game show, and reacting to the big stories of the day is my fabulous and rather glamorous panel tonight. Comedian and broadcaster Tommy Sandu. Research fellow at the think tank The Bow Group, a good friend of the show, Benjamin Loughnane. And, I'm delighted to say, broadcaster, socialite, ex-wag, entrepreneur and musical actress, Lizzie Cundy. On tonight's topics, should we be teaching 7-year-olds about race issues? Are Harry and Meghan hypocritical over Spotify misinformation? And should you split the mortgage or rent 50-50 with your partner? We'll get to those talking points shortly. Now, you know the highlight of my show is when you get in touch. So drop me a line right now and right through until 11. Mark at gbnews.uk. I'll get your thoughts on the national television airwaves. And we are, of course, online as well, available via YouTube. Through our website, you can hear us on DAB+ as well. It's Sunday night, and let me tell you, I've got a big one for you. We don't do boring, not on my watch, so fire up the kettle, tear open the Jaffa cakes, and let's talk Boris. Sorry, folks, I'm done. Boris has to go. Notwithstanding the investigation into Partygate, which is taking longer to complete than the Sistine Chapel, damaging revelations reported in today's Mail on Sunday suggest that this freedom-loving Prime Minister, or so we're told, was actually planning to cancel Christmas and fold to the sage scientists after all. Apparently, a three-pronged attack by former Brexit Minister Lord Frost, Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Commons leader Jacob Rees-Mogg forced the Prime Minister to ignore demands by his scientific advisers for families to be banned from mixing over the festive period. I just don't want a Prime Minister that folds anymore or gets bounced into or out of things. I want a Prime Minister that will stand up and be counted. So this is a Prime Minister who arguably cannot take credit for lighter restrictions over Christmas, which proved to be the right decision and which has made England the envy of the world. If it was Rishi Sunak that was decisive here, then I think he should be in charge of the country, not Boris. If it was his policy, why not put him in charge? It's like Cyrano de Bergerac. Do you remember that story? Give me the guy who's writing the words, not the one who's saying them out loud. We know that Rishi Sunak has been pushing back on restrictions since the start because he's the Chancellor and he knows the economic damage. He has seen the books and they don't make for good reading. This financially incontinent Prime Minister couldn't run a piggy bank, let alone the fifth biggest economy in the world. I credited Boris Johnson with saving Christmas, Freedom Day on the 19th of July and the end of Plan B restrictions in England on Thursday. But I'm starting to feel missold. I'm done. I just want a proper Prime Minister now, someone sensible, calm, coherent, organised, and dare I say it, a bit boring. Whatever revelations emerge from the Partygate investigation, I'm not sure it matters anymore. The damage is done. The stories of booze-fuelled Zoom quizzes, surprise birthdays, garden parties, and suitcases of red wine being wheeled into Number 10 should be enough to tell you that this guy is not fit for purpose. 10 Downing Street is a workplace. It's a massive office and the centre of government. I don't think there should be any booze in there whatsoever. My production team on this show work incredibly hard and late at night. They don't touch a drop. And there's no booze in the work fridge. I wouldn't have it. My brilliant team would not be drinking, not on my watch. Even afterwards, especially if we've got another big show the next day, it doesn't happen. And every show I do is a big one. That's my commitment to you. So those are my standards. Where are Boris's? In further revelations in the Mail, security chiefs won't let Boris, we're told, take sensitive documents to his flat because it's like a frat house where people visiting are always turning up, they sit down on the sofa and documents are lying around. It's not good enough. Number 10 is the centre of government, not a bloody student halls of residence or a 20-something flat share. The guy's got his talents, but he has proved himself to be irredeemably weak as well. He's been in the pocket of Whitty and Valance since day one, and he couldn't even sack Dominic Cummings for Barnard Castle or Matt Hancock for his steamy CCTV scandal. Do you think that these chances would have lasted 5 minutes in a Margaret Thatcher administration? Do me a favour. Margaret Thatcher was the Iron Lady. Boris Johnson is just a plank. I do salute him for getting Brexit done and keeping Jeremy Corbyn out of Number 10, which would have been an economic and national security disaster for the country. So his place in history is secured. And we would have had more lockdowns and ruinous measures if Sir Keir Starmer had been in charge. Starmer called Freedom Day reckless, don't forget. And he asked the Prime Minister for the evidence justifying ending Plan B. But Boris is chaotic, erratic, and his so-called diet after his brush with COVID death appears to be going about as well as many of his other ambitions, like levelling up the country and tackling bonkers, extreme political correctness. Remember, our Prime Minister can't even say that only women have a cervix. Well, he has got no backbone. Then there's the crazily expensive and scientifically debatable green agenda that no one voted for. And he locked us down far too often and for too long. What's the point in having liberal principles if you don't lead by them? And what bothers me about Boris is his lust for self-preservation, which means a potential increase in spending that the country can't afford as he buys off backbenchers with a few million here and a few million there to save his own skin. I'm sorry, but I don't trust Boris with money. This is a guy who can't even afford to decorate his own flat. So I'm disappointed by the guy because I've certainly given him my backing since December 2019. I feel deceived and let down. And I think I'm not the only one. Britain feels like the other woman in Boris's life, desperately trying to believe the promises, ignoring the disappointments, and hoping upon hope that one day he will change. Well, after 2 years in power, it's now my view that he never will. The best confidence tricksters are the one who get you to trick yourself, and I think that's happened to the British people. We've waited too long for Bojo to get his mojo. Bojo's mojo has been a no-show. But the show must go on. The 2 or 3 years between now and the next election are, in my view, the most important for this country since the end of the Second World War. Emerging from the pandemic and the biggest recession in 300 years, a spiralling NHS waiting list, a colossal national debt, a mental health tsunami and a generation of damaged kids. We need a steady hand at the tiller and a grown-up in the room. And I declare that that grown-up is Rishi Sunak. Extremely intelligent, famously hard-working and a great communicator, he would be our first Prime Minister from an Asian background. Born in Southampton to British Indian parents who had emigrated from East Africa, his dad was a GP and his mum was a chemist. Great vocations, but hardly landed aristocracy. Sunak himself went on to make his fortune in the city. That financial background, plus his impressive stewardship at the Treasury, including successful policies like furlough, which saved thousands of businesses and millions of jobs, equips him well for the job. The biggest challenge for our next Prime Minister is a simple one. It's the economy, stupid. Tackling the national debt, keeping taxes low, stimulating growth, dealing with inflation, driving the huge economic potential of Brexit, saving the high street and tackling the cost of living crisis, which goes from bad to worse. Partygate or no partygate, the party is over for Boris. It's time, gentlemen, please. The fat lady has sung and the PM's goose is cooked. He has actually stuffed himself, if I'm honest. Dishy Rishi, let's get busy. If this famously hard-working teetotaler at number 11 gets the top job, I'll drink to that. Cup of tea, obviously. With me now and throughout the show is my teetotal all-star panel. Well, that might be stretching reality a little bit. Research fellow at the Bow Group, which is a conservative think tank, Benjamin Loughnane, TV personality, broadcaster, author and actress Lizzie Cundy, and podcaster and comedian Tommy Sandu. Great to have all three of you with me. Well, that's it, Lizzie. I'm done. Boris has got to go.
I think so too, darling. And we don't need Sue Gray to say it's a party. Why didn't they employ me? Seriously, I know what a party is. And Mark, as you know, and we all know, he shouldn't have done what he did. It was a party. And Boris, just tell the truth. You know, I think the public, everyone knows it's not the right thing to keep lying about this and, you know, passing it over to inquiry. We don't need that. We all know the truth. And it's just sad. You know, it's becoming quite pathetic.
Well, definitely. Lizzie, a party in central London, why weren't you invited?
Well, that's it. I was a bit upset, actually. I wasn't invited, though I do like a bit of cheese and wine. Yes, it was one party I was invited to, but I've heard there are a few people I do know that were there. And, Boris, I'm afraid you were there, and so was your wife.
Well, a lot of the people that were supportive of Boris were hanging on to the fact that he was responsible for Freedom Day on the 19th of July, and also for making sure that we all had Christmas, at least in England. In fact, England was one of the freest countries in Europe over Christmas. You could even go to a nightclub for New Year's Eve. But now we discover, according to these allegations in the Mail on Sunday, that he can't take credit for that, Lizzie.
Well, no, but then how can he give out these rules when he's not abiding them himself? You know, we can't take instructions from someone that is actually doing the opposite. And that is the thing. I think he became really unstuck there. And that's why we don't believe him, I'm afraid, anything he says. And how are we going to abide by his rules when he's not doing them himself?
Tommy Sandu, I'm calling it. Boris has to go. What's your view?
Well, yeah, before we get into that, I think we have to get some home truths declared here. Lizzie's on the wine, Mark. I need you to know that. Lizzie's on the wine. She'll be drinking wine in the green room, and she's got wine here right now. Now, I don't want to be the grass, but it feels like there you are, laying down these rules. Lizzie, tell the people the truth, right? You're drinking wine, and there's you, Mark, kind of going, not on my watch. You're like Boris in this, right? You don't know what's going on in your own house. And I'm here as your Rishi Sunak, man. I'm here as the brown one, going, listen, bruv, I got your back. I'm telling you what's actually going on.
Can I just say, no one likes a snitch, right? We don't like snitches.
Snitches?
We don't like snitches, okay? This is a cup of tea.
We'll be checking that.
News mug.
It's in a mug, but it ain't tea, okay? But we approve of tea. But Boris has got to go. Look, it's a tricky job being at the top. Boris is a big game leader. I think he delivers great big speeches. He's wonderful. He says the sound bites that get into the headlines. You know, I love the rhubarb line. I mean, he's just entertaining all round. But it seems to be that when it comes to the detail, he drops the ball on so many times. And I think you're right, Mark. I think you're speaking for the nation when you say the words you have done tonight. That time's up, you know, and we're all looking onto the next one. But Is it Rishi? I know Benjamin has other opinions.
Benjamin, Boris has got to go, in my view. I'm ready for a grown-up in the room, and I'm pushing for Rishi Sunak Prime Minister.
No, I'd say the cleverest thing Boris has done is surround himself by the most mediocre, terrible possible candidates to replace him, because it means that when he really is in an untenable position, when he's lost all moral authority, when he can't really lead, when he can't really introduce any new restrictions or whatever else it might be, there isn't actually anyone really to replace him. The fact that you've gone for Rishi shows the lack of talent there is, because I don't think Rishi's that impressive. I mean, as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, he has written off £4.3 billion worth of furlough-related fraud. That's a huge amount of money to just effectively say we're not going to follow up and chase. He hasn't been a great Chancellor. I don't think he's been particularly good. I don't think he'd be a particularly good Prime Minister. So I think if you're going for Rishi Sunak, it just shows how bleak the situation is in terms of the candidates that there are.
Well, Benjamin, I think he's the most talented and impressive politician of his generation. Don't forget, he became Chancellor just before the pandemic started. Remember the Sajid Javid fell out with Dominic Cummings, had a hissy fit and left. And this young politician got the biggest job, or almost the biggest job in the country, certainly in the top 3 offices of state. The furlough scheme, if you're going to lock people down, which of course I'm against, but if you're going to do it, furlough was a triumph, Benjamin, because it saved millions of jobs and thousands of businesses.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, with Rishi, yeah, he's very slick, he looks very good, but that's because he's got a PR team bigger than a sort of Formula One racing team. It's, you know, he's like a product, he's been marketed. I don't think when you actually look at the substance, when you look at what he's actually achieved, that he has the experience or the character to really lead this country.
What about Eat Out to Help Out? That was another policy triumph.
Well, I don't think it really was. I mean, well, you get a sort of 20% off on a certain amount, doesn't apply to certain things. It seemed to me, again, like a PR stunt. It was about getting people back out there. It was about inspiring companies. I don't think it actually did anything. What you need is a chancellor who actually does things that aren't necessarily PR-oriented. They might even be unpopular decisions, but they're the good, right decisions for the country. They're good for the economy. And I don't think spending $400 billion on lockdown-related measures, writing off $4.3 billion on the fraud, I don't think those are good, sound financial decisions.
But Benjamin,
I think he's got a great PR team.
We know that these policies have come from Sage and from the Prime Minister. It was not the Chancellor's call as to whether to lock us down. And it's been very clear since the start that the Treasury, led by Rishi Sunak, have been resisting all of these COVID measures.
Well, I'd love for that to be true. And if Rishi were to come in and be Prime Minister and I was proven wrong and he was a great liberaliser and he really did do all these things, then I will personally...
Well, he saved Christmas, Benjamin. Rishi saved Christmas.
I'm not quite sure he did save Christmas. I think what saved Christmas was that the British people, the British public said, no, you're not going to cancel Christmas, because if you do, we're going to do it anyway. There was no way that Boris could have cancelled Christmas because people would have just ignored it.
Yeah.
Lizzie.
When he's partying himself, How could he put all these restrictions on us when he's out there partying? And there wasn't just one party, 2, 3, 17.
Well, that's why I like Rishi Sunak, Lizzie, because he probably hasn't had a party since he was 18. And even then, it was probably just, you know, a game of chess with a couple of mates. I think we're ready for a grown-up, sensible leader of the Conservative Party, a sensible Prime Minister, to tackle the huge challenges ahead. Not a Prime Minister who can't be trusted by civil servants to have sensitive documents in the number 10 flat because people keep turning up like it's a student flat.
No, it's very true. But what about the backbenchers? What about Bernard Jenkins, Tom Tunnicamp? There are people that are there that are real, you know, true to their word, not vague like Boris, who could be great leaders. And I think we've got to look at that, go beyond. Do you not agree?
No, I agree. I think the Cabinet is, I described it earlier in the week in an article. I said it's a coterie of mediocrity. It is just a display of very boring, bland people who are no threat to Boris whatsoever. They have no personality, really. You don't really see any personality in the Cabinet. You don't see much in terms of the ability to lead. So the only person I think really in the Cabinet who has any personality is Jacob Rees-Mogg, because he's a character, he's a big character, but he's the most loyal to Boris in the Cabinet, and that's the only reason he's still there.
OK, well, final thoughts on this for now. What do you think, Tommy?
Well, I think these guys have been a little bit harsh. I think Rishi is the man, to be honest. Nobody could have known how much fraud was going to come out of the furlough scheme or even bounce-back loans or things like that, or what the nation's going to do. This man's putting things into place to help the nation. Eat Out to Help Out was done, and it boosted the economy. People went out and began spending again. It put confidence back into the nation. It got people out and about. It got us mixing again.
Got us locked down again. We went into lockdown straight after. Terrible.
But you could argue, was that going to happen anyway? There's
Correct.
kind of misinformation around
Seasonal respiratory virus.
Yeah.
It goes up in the winter and down
Gave
in the
us
summer.
hope, then took it away.
But then here we are now with a guy that is actually trying to put things into place. And yet he's kind of damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. I think he did a great job. And I think when you look at the lineup, he's your best next replacement. Gotta be.
I'm sorry, Boris has got to go. His goose has been cooked. That's my view. What's yours? Do you wish to back the Prime Minister? Is there life in the old dog yet? Let me know. Mark at gbnews.uk. Very excited about our big question guest. Is the age of romance dead? Asda are now selling engagement rings for £1, and there's an absolute explosion in one-night stands as a result of the pandemic. So what do we think? Is the age of romance dead? We'll discuss that, and we've got a Twitter poll running on that as well. So jump onto @GBNews via Twitter. And don't forget, my Mark Meets guest is Sky Andrew, one of the most powerful football agents in the country. We'll talk about the billions sloshing around the Premier League. A really busy show. And don't forget, big laughs in Headliners after 11. But first, here are some ads.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Well, so many emails coming in about my big opinion monologue. I'm calling it Boris Must Go. And I want to see Rishi Sunak as the next leader of the Conservative Party and our next Prime Minister. I think the economy is going to be the only show in town between now and the next election. He's a self-made millionaire and he's absolutely played a blinder as Chancellor. I think he'd be great, but what do you think? Well, opinion is divided out there. Let's have a look at what you've got to say. Janice says, Dear Mark, I think you're right. Boris must go, but we must have a staunch Brexiteer in his place. I shudder to think of the trouble a Ramona at the top could cause. Well, Janice, I think you're right. We've got to have a Brexiteer. We've had a Remain Prime Minister in Theresa May. Look how that played out. And I think we've got to have a lockdown skeptic Prime Minister as well. We need somebody at number 10 that, when faced with future COVID variants, doesn't once again shut down the country and cause economic and societal damage. How about this? Anne says, Mark, currently no vacancy for a PM, but as I am a Conservative Party member, I get a vote. It won't be for free spending Rishi or stab you in the back Tom Thingamajig. Of course, Tom Tugendhat there, of course, Anne is referring to. Clearly no obvious replacement, so better the Maverick you know, says Anne. Chris says, Mark, how about Desmond Swain for Prime Minister? A get-the-job-done politician. Sunak is a media star, just as Boris was a TV personality. Thank you for that, Chris. Boris must stay for now, says Alan, who's got Boris on probation. Many of you have sent me emails to that effect. Hi, Mark, says Tim. I don't agree with you. Let's keep Boris. Sunak was only given the job because he was a yes man who agreed to turn on the spending taps. Patel, no good, hasn't sorted out the migrant crisis. Truss, unimpressive and an unknown quantity. No one else apart from maybe Nadine Dorries. And finally, for now, Russ says, Dear Mark, don't forget Penny Mordaunt for PM. She'd be superb, just like Thatcher. Boris is no longer respected and he has a very dubious private life. Russ, thank you for that. Do keep them coming. And let me just do this one for Catherine. Dear Mark, from Catherine, most disappointed with your dialogue tonight. You cannot believe all you read in the media. This is a continuation of Boris bashing and a ploy with Rishi Sunak and co to get rid of Boris to meet Rishi's goal of becoming PM. The more I hear about him, the less I rate him. Boris must stay. There's nobody else suitable to take over as PM. Well, Catherine, thank you so much for that. Keep your opinions coming. mark@gbnews.uk. It's time now for the big question, in which we tackle a major issue of the day. Tonight, is the age of romance dead? With online hookups and one-night stands through the roof because of the pandemic, and with Asda releasing an engagement ring costing just £1, have we lost the art of good old-fashioned courtship? What happened to picking up the bill at dinner, opening the door for your young lady, or throwing your coat onto a forthcoming puddle? To discuss this, I'm delighted to welcome Kezia Noble, a celebrity dating expert and author of the best-selling book, The Noble Art of Seducing Women. Kezia has helped over 1 million men achieve success. Also joining us is former Apprentice contestant and the star of a new series of Celebs Go Dating, Ryan Mark Parsons. Kezia, is the age of romance dead?
Oh, yes, it's been dead since the first dating app came out.
And is that a good or a bad thing? Is that a good or a bad thing, Kezia?
No, it's a bad thing. Yeah, just like dating apps has made people like just very sort of replaceable. People just think that, you know, with a dating app, you don't have to put much effort into it. You just have to put up a nice picture. say a couple of cool things, and then you go on a date. There's not much effort there. It just, as I said, everyone's just replaceable. Men and women see it that way. And so just people don't make that effort. And that's what I believe romance is. It's about making that effort.
And why is romance important? Why does it matter if you still get your end away at the end of the day?
No, if that's all you want, then fine. But it's not going to progress to anything. So I help a lot of men. And although, yes, they're looking for short-term hookups, a lot of them, at some point, they do want a relationship, the vast majority. And if you are going via dating apps to find that just short-term hookups, then the chances that you have a relationship out of that are significantly lower than if you put in the effort and did it the old-fashioned way.
Do you think it will come back, romance?
I do think so, and I'm starting to see it already. A lot of people are sort of ditching the dating apps. They're finding it just kind of like they thought it was a shortcut, and it's not, especially now as people can really filter their pictures a lot more. A lot of people are like disappointed when they go on these dates, and so they're sort of deleting those dating apps more and more, and people are starting to look, they miss that adrenaline of approaching somebody and, you know, going out on 2 or 3 dates with them. They're actually starting to miss that. So I do think that dating apps will be there and short-term hookups will always be there. But I think people are starting to look back at the old ways of meeting women and women meeting men.
Can't you have romance online? Can't you have romance through an app, Kezia?
You can. It does happen. Younger generation, less so. Older generation, maybe a bit more, because they're probably looking to settle down. But the vast majority of people that I speak to, especially my clients and my female, I don't use dating apps, but my female friends have just said, like, it's exhausting, and they're just finding that it's losing that kind of, as you say, romantic kind of feel to everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating question, isn't it? What do you think about this? Because the bottom line is that ultimately you've got dating shows, and these dating shows are clearly very popular. And you're in one of them, Ryan Mark Parsons. You are in Celebs Go Dating.
Yes, I've been filming that, for the past 3 months. And it's been on air for about 2 weeks now. And that was very much going back to traditional dating. We got rid of the dating apps and we are thrown into the deep end, dating someone. A lot of blind dates, actually, people just appearing in the room and we just have to face them, ask the questions. But I have found, since filming the show, that people can't speak anymore. And I think that's where the romance is dying. Because of the pandemic, people have lost all of their communication skills. And I think that is a large reason why romance is as wet as a leaf in the winter. You know, it's sad. It's really sad to see. And I've made an effort on these dates. If anyone's been watching Celebs Go Dating, they would have seen me making a lot of effort. But I'm afraid to say the dates have been coming to me. They have been absolutely terrible so far.
Well, Ryan, Mark, perhaps those ladies don't want to talk. They want to get down to business.
Well, maybe. And that's the thing, Mark. That is the thing. You were speaking earlier about this £1 Asda ring. And I think that is absolutely pathetic and disgusting. Honestly, anyone going to a supermarket to buy a £1 engagement ring needs to have a long look in the mirror. And you're exactly right on business. It has become very, very transactional, where people are simply buying a ring for £1. I've never heard of anything like this. And then proposing. I would be absolutely humiliated. If someone proposed to me with a ring worth £1, I'd be running away to Australia. Absolutely not.
So, Ryan, Mark, what are some of your romantic techniques?
Some of my romantic techniques, goodness me. So on these dates, I have been flirting in the sense of giving a few chat-up lines. Like, gosh, what was one of them? If you were a waffle, I'd like to put my tongue in one of your little squares. That was one of my chat-up lines. It did work.
You had me at waffles. I'm in.
Sorry?
You had me at waffles. Give me your number.
Potato waffles, exactly. And then another one was if you were what's a dung beetle? I'd be a piece of animal poo. And these are very bizarre chat-up lines, but you know why they work? Because they break the ice. And then as soon as I go in with those bizarre chat-up lines, the conversation flows. But unfortunately, some of the dates I've had have just been so dull, they just don't know how to continue it. And that's a major issue as well that we're facing.
Well, yeah, I mean, do you think, Ryan, Mark, there's a difference between how romantic men and women are?
Absolutely. And I think that is mainly because of how woke we're becoming as a society. I'm 21. I have a lot of my friends going on dates every week pretty much, are on Hinge, Tinder, Raya, and they're finding a lot of people from my generation, Generation Z, they are tiptoeing around certain topics. For instance, this wasn't even a date. I opened the door to a woman the other day and she gave me the dirtiest look. And I was speaking to my friend. He was so worried at the restaurant table over whether he would offer to pay the meal just in case the woman he was dating on the date with would accuse him of being misogynistic, which he has had in the past. So it's because of this wokery, people are becoming very cautious when it comes to dating. And that is killing the romance. That is the reason why there's no romance left.
Kezia, do you think that extreme political correctness is killing romance?
So Ryan's bang on the money on many of his points. The woke thing is getting in the way, but you do have to own it. You have to, if someone starts giving you, like he had that experience of opening the door, and literally if the woman says, don't open the door for me or whatever, just say to her, look, are you not used to a man treating you like a gentleman? Is that something you're not used to? Like, kind of make her, like, reflect it back at her. But you have to own it. You have to say, look, this is me. I'm a polite person. I like being a gentleman. Do not mistake my kindness for weakness, my good manners for being sexist or anything like that. You've got to own it. And I think then that can sort of supersede it. But a lot of guys are very apologetic for being kind or apologetic for being a gentleman. And that's what makes that person unattractive, if that makes sense.
What do you think about Ryan Mark's chat-up lines, waffles and dung beetles?
On paper, they're terrible. But look at the way he's saying it. He's confident. He's not outcome dependent with it. He's just saying it. He knows it's a bit of a laugh. And he's being 100%, committed to it. That's attractive. That's confidence. That's what women are looking for in a man, a confident person. They're looking for confidence and certainty. So if he'd have said those chat-up lines or any chat-up line with uncertainty or, slightly apologetic, then it wouldn't have worked.
Do you think romance is generational to a certain extent, Kezia? Perhaps our parents and our grandparents did it properly.
They did it better, but I have to say I've been on dates with much younger guys than me, and they're a little bit more awkward than older guys about it. But they do secretly like it, guys. I think even the young ones, I think they secretly like that whole experience of being romantic with a woman, even if they don't always admit it. So I don't think it's completely dead for that generation yet.
So you've advised many men in finding love. How would you advise them to be romantic in order to win someone's heart? What sort of tips might you suggest?
Okay, so it's got to be romantic not in a cliched sense. I mean, if you like to do cliched things, again, it's all about owning that and just being unapologetic.
Can you have a rose between your teeth like this?
Someone like Ryan would get away with it because he'd be like half laughing about it, you can imagine. So yes, actually, you could go really silly with it as long as you're kind of doing it tongue in cheek. Again, it's about the attitude, not what you do. And in terms of romance, you've got to do something which you feel is what's the word? It's in line with who you are. You don't want to become someone that you're not. It's got to be congruent with your personality
and
authentic.
Your
lifestyle and age. Yeah.
That's what the word, isn't it? Catchword these days, authentic.
It is, yeah. You have to be authentic to yourself. So if it's standing with a rose because you're that funny person that likes to take the PISS, don't know if I can say that on this show. Of
course you can.
Himself, then okay, then it will work. And if you're not that comical kind of person, it's going to look absolutely ridiculous.
Do you think, Kezia, that programmes like Celebs Go Dating and Love Island trivialise and undermine relationships?
So I've not been a contestant on Celebs Go Dating, but I've appeared on it, like coaching the guys on there. And I love Celebs Go Dating because, as you know, it's not about dating apps and things like that, and it's much more organic. So I like Celebs Go Dating. I think that's a good show. I don't like Love Island at all. They all look the same, the people. I literally can't tell the difference between any of them. At least with celebs go dating, I mean, there's different kind of looks. At least you can see the difference between the people. I know that's not going to win me any points saying that, but Love Island, ugh.
Not for you. Briefly, Kezia, let me ask you about both genders, because you are an expert on romance across the board. What do women want and what do men want?
Okay, oh God, I've written like a whole book about this. You're asking me to just sort of like put it into one sentence. Okay, women are looking for ultimately confidence in a guy. They're looking for somebody who is, as you said, authentic, unapologetic for what he says, who he is, has a strong reality, doesn't play the Mr. Nice Guy routine. They'd rather have someone that's the great guy, okay, with a little bit of a dark side to him, perhaps, but they don't want the nice guy. And what what men are looking for,
family show.
Obedience. No, I'm joking. No, I think what men are looking for, mainly from what I hear from guys, is loyalty. I do hear that a lot from my clients. Like, what's the most important? What's your ideal woman? And like, keep in shape, attractive, and loyal. I hear that a lot. That's just the feedback I get from guys.
I think what men are looking for is a pulse, but that's just perhaps my personal experience. Ryan, Mark, what do you think? First of all, what are you looking for, Ryan? You're a very wealthy, accomplished young man. You're a celebrity now. The world is your oyster when it comes to the ladies. What are you looking for?
I'm just looking for ambition. I'm looking for intelligence. I don't think it's all about looks. I think personality is a big factor for me. So when I go on these dates, I look for big, loud, opinionated. I don't want to be sad in front of someone who's dull and dry and drab. I mean, what do you get out of that? A relationship is about learning. It's about having fun. It can't be too serious, because then what's the point of being in a relationship? I might as well go to a library. So that is what I look for in a potential partner. And going back to what you said earlier in terms of a generational issue, that's exactly right. I'm doing the show with Erika Johnson. She's 54. We're best friends. I would definitely say that I'm more of an exception when it comes to my generation. Now, we can have a chat in the green room perfectly. She flirts, I flirt, I call her Miss Foxy. And she loves it. She purrs, right? But when it comes to her dates, now she has a preference to younger men. Now on the show, they don't know how to speak to her. And I think that is because the younger generation, people like me, are so glued to their phones, they just have lost all social skills. And I definitely agree with you, Mark. It is a generational issue, and this is what is causing issues here.
Clearly, you're having great fun on Celebs Go Dating. I'd urge my viewers to give it a watch, especially for your contribution, Ryan, Mark. Do you think you'll find love on that show? Have you already met the one?
Oh, I can't reveal any spoilers. So far, I've had the worst score at the agency. I got a 3 out of 10 on episode 1. And then episode 2, I managed to insult my date in Brighton. So far, it hasn't gone too well, but you never know. It might pick up, but it's very authentic. The agents, Paul and Anna, they're absolutely incredible. Paul Brunson, Anna Williamson, they are genuine experts. They give us the best advice, and they do put us on real dates with real people. It's not acting, it's not fake, it's genuine dates with about 10 cameras watching us, and it all goes out eventually on Channel 4. So it's an amazing show, and I've loved every second of it.
Well, you're a natural on the box, and I'm sure you will find love in a very timely fashion. Brilliant to have you both on the show. Kezia Noble, celebrity dating expert, author of the best-selling book, The Noble Art of Seducing Women, and the star of The Apprentice and the new series of Celebs Go Dating, Ryan Mark Parsons. Well, the results are in from our Twitter poll. We've been asking you whether the age of romance is indeed dead. And 60% of you say yes, it is. 40% say no, it's still very much a going concern. Lots more to come. In our news agenda with my panel, should children be taught that they're not racially innocent? And I'm talking 7-year-olds. Plus, at 10 o'clock, my Mark Meets guest is one of the most powerful and successful people in the world of football management. Sky Andrew is live in the studio, taking your questions, mark at gbnews.uk. So much to get through. Don't forget big laughs and big stories in Headliners after 11. I'll see you in 2.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Boris must stay for now, says Alan on Mark at gbnews.uk. How about this? I don't agree with you, says Tim. Let's keep Boris. Sunak only was given the job because he's a yes man. And on the subject of love, romance is not dead, says... it's a really good one, actually, and it's from A. Freeman. Hi, Mark. My husband got me a ring from the gift shop at Dover Castle when he proposed. I think the whole wedding business is a rip-off with people spending obscene amounts of money on flowers. Mine were a bouquet from Tesco's. Venues and bands, it's all overpriced and stupid. The criticism of the Asda £1 ring is unfair. Some people can't afford hundreds and more for rings. Why should they be excluded from proposing? There shouldn't be a price on love. Money has killed romance. Brilliant email there from A. Freeman. I'll get to more of your emails very, very shortly. Do you think Boris should go? That's my view. That's the topic of my big opinion monologue, which is now on Twitter at GB News. Take a look if you've missed it and let me know your thoughts. Now, quite a concerning story to kick off our news agenda with my brilliant panel. Of course, with me tonight, Tommy Sandu, Lizzie Cundy and Benjamin Loughnane. Kids as young as 7 could be taught that they're not racially innocent under a plan from Brighton and Hove Council. The council is making teachers do anti-racism training designed to be used in specific racial literary-focused lessons. The training endorses ideas like white privilege, and the plan has come under fire over concerns it's indoctrinating children. So should we be teaching children about race, sometimes children as young as 7? Tommy, what do you think about this?
I got kids. I got a 9-year-old. I got a 5-year-old.
You got skin in the game, baby.
I'm in. I'm too
got a dog in the race.
I'm well involved. Honestly, my sons are lovely. They're beautiful boys in their nature. They don't.
Have you done a DNA test?
Yeah, no, I haven't done. We're going on Jeremy Carr. No, they're but they don't. They really don't see race, and this is what I worry about. This is our problem. This is a grown-up issue, and the race debate and what we see and how we see people. I don't think it's fair to be passing down to them. You ask my son Milo, who's 9, to compare him to, let alone not forget race. another child who's another gender, all right? A little girl, he won't see different. He might see differences in hair colour. He just doesn't see it. Teach them about what a couple means. I said to him, get a couple of cookies. He came back with 4.
Oh, yes.
Teach him that first before you teach him about what race means. Literally, I think kids are innocent, kids are beautiful, and for us to be muddying their childhood with these issues is taken away from the innocence that they are. If anything, when I look at all the stuff going on in the world and news and stories and headlines, that's the one thing that I think is beautiful and should be left alone, to just be themselves. Otherwise, I think you're going to confuse them more. It's probably the reason why so many kids in their sort of teens and 20s are confused now, because we're just moving the goalposts of life so much.
Well, absolutely. We can all agree racism is the most evil, pernicious thing. It's a hateful strain in human nature, and as you say, particularly among adults, it's got to be addressed. No one's denying its existence. But do you really want to superimpose what is effectively critical race theory on 5, 6 or 7-year-olds? And critical race theory, I mean, just to explain it in a basic sense, it's an idea or a theory that anybody that's got white skin is inherently privileged and therefore racist.
Yeah, and, you know,
it's not a fact, is it? It's a theory.
It's a theory, and actually, just look at... I've got friends from all over the country, all over the world, right? And your skin colour does not determine your privilege, OK? It's not about colour. And the fact that we are confusing skin colour with privilege is, I think, fundamentally flawed. It's about kind of social status, or, you know, there are many factors that affect your privilege.
Your income.
I am privileged, right? I stayed quiet, if I'm honest, during lockdown. Now, lockdown was hard for me as a comedian, as someone who goes out and about, who does gigs. But I know I've got a house. I've got a family. I've got people that support me. I've got even my parents that supported me. And I'm like, well, I'm lucky. I am privileged, but I'm not white. I'm brown privileged. Go and throw that one.
And you may be subject to invisible barriers that you're aware or not aware of.
Exactly. And look, Mr. Mark, everyone's got obstacles, everyone's got barriers, everyone's got privilege, everyone's got like strengths and weaknesses to their life and obstacles they're trying to overcome. I just think that all of those issues are complex. The CRT thing is complex. Don't bring that to the kids. Don't confuse them at more.
Well, isn't it a bit like sex education? It's like you don't start at 5, 6 or 7. Maybe wait till they're teenagers and talk about the existence of racism.
And there are things that you should be teaching to celebrate them, to celebrate life, to celebrate inclusion, to celebrate, you know, the inclusion and the integration of people. Talk about great people from different backgrounds, heritages, colours, skin colours, genders, abilities. Celebrate that.
So celebrate Albert Einstein, Winston Churchill and Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, and anyone...
And Gandhi.
Yeah,
and Stevie Wonder.
Right, go for it. Just talk about greatness. Talk about people that have achieved something. Talk about people that have overcome hurdles in their life. You don't need to kind of go, and by the way, this might be... Because I tell you, that will just... I'm thinking about my son in that classroom now. He'll be baffled by you talking about white skin, brown skin, black skin, and who's privileged. It will just... It doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, do you remember that Channel 4 documentary? It was about race in the classroom, and there was a primary school child that was separated from the rest of his mates in the classroom because the teacher told him that he was racist because he had white skin, and he burst into tears. Oh. I mean, that was borderline child abuse in my view.
Totally, Mark. And I've got 2 boys, as you know.
Fabulous young lads.
They are. I'm very blessed. But, you know, race doesn't come into it. You know, as you said, I agree with everything you've said, you know, and they're so innocent. And also... I feel really very strongly about everyone like tearing down these statues and saying, you know, our past with Churchill being a racist. But this is our history. We learn from that and we grow from that. And for my boys who have grown up to be wonderful young men, you know, they don't even look at the colour of your skin, your religion, your culture, you know, and that shouldn't even come into it, and it doesn't. And other people are making it an issue.
Well, one of your lads said I was a bit lanky, but I guess...
You did, indeed.
You are. You are, Mark.
I'm 6'5". I'm a bit scrawny, Benjamin. That's my barrier.
Yeah, I can sympathise with that. I've got the same problem, you know. Every time I get on a bus, my knees are pressed up against like that. It's
feel your pain, brother.
The world, you know, it's not built for us. Maybe I should start marching and pulling down statues of the people who made buses or whatever, you know.
Is that height privilege? Is that height privilege?
Yeah, it is a bit.
Oppressed by my own height. Look, if you want to be oppressed, you'll find ways that you're oppressed. If you really want to draw it out, you can find it, you can perceive it. But fundamentally, I think kids don't see this. They don't have this issue. They treat each other as individuals. They don't think in terms of, you know, groups.
Especially in our great cities, you know, whether it's Belfast, Manchester, Cardiff, Glasgow, London, you'll find, won't you, that most primary school classrooms are wonderfully diverse.
Well,
I can't think of too many. I mean, there might be a couple of villages in Cornwall, and that's no disrespect to my Cornish viewers, but Britain's very multicultural, and the classroom is the perfect backdrop.
Of course, and whether they are or they aren't, I just think kids they're not aware of it. They don't think in those terms. And if you take kids and you tell them to think in those terms, you're just going to create the problem that you're trying to solve. You know, Morgan Freeman was asked, how do you solve racism? He said, stop talking about it. You know, if you just stop talking about race and stop making it an issue and just treat people as individuals, then it won't,
let's reiterate, racism is the most pernicious and evil and dreadful thing. But critical race theory, it's a proposition. It's an idea that comes from academics.
Yeah, I think probably the way to solve racism isn't to say that white people are inherently evil. I think that's actually probably creating the problem, because even if you're saying, white people are bad or whatever, you're still creating a distinction. You're still building that distinction, that divide between the two. You're saying white people are over here, everyone else over there. You're creating a divide that doesn't need to exist. Why can't you just say, we're all human, what's difficult about that? And I think kids inherently understand that.
And here's the big factor, it's the age that we're talking about, 5, 6, 7 years of age. I mean, I'm not even sure that they should have any really formal academic input at that point. They should be just basically mucking around with paints and Play-Doh and...
Even not at that age, even older, I don't think it's for schools. I don't think it's for the government to do this. I think it's for parents. It's the responsibility of the parents to raise their children to be decent people in all senses, not just in terms of race, but in all senses. It's the responsibility of the parents. It's the responsibility of the school to teach them how to do the maths and the English and the science and the hard skills that they need to learn.
Yeah.
And I think, the blurring of the line between the school becoming the parents of the children and telling them how to think and do things.
The parents, and I do feel
ridiculous. Will you look at my amazing panel tonight? I'm so excited about the next hour because they'll be diving into some of the other big stories of the day. But after this, one of the most powerful men in football in Mark Meets. See you shortly.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
It is the eve of final transfer day in the Premier League, and it's the deadline to sign big players to clubs like Arsenal Tottenham, Manchester United, Man City, Newcastle and the rest of it. We'll be joined in the studio by a top football and showbiz agent. We'll talk about the economics of the game. Why is the Premier League the richest league on the planet? We'll also talk about whether footballers should be vaccinated, taking the knee on the pitch and much, much more. So lots to get through in Mark Meets in just a couple of minutes' time, plus more from my panel and big laughs in Headliners after 11 with two top comedians looking at tomorrow's papers. But first, the headlines with Polly.
Good evening, I'm Polly Middlehurst in the GB newsroom, your top story. Boris Johnson says the picture on Ukraine's border is increasingly concerning as he urges Russia to avoid a reckless and catastrophic invasion. The Prime Minister's considering doubling the number of troops deployed to strengthen Europe's borders. However, the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says it's very unlikely British soldiers will fight alongside Ukrainians. And here, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have been insisting that a rise in national insurance planned for April is the right thing to do. That's despite opposition parties and even some Conservative MPs saying it should be halted due to an increase in the cost of living. Writing in the Sunday Times newspaper, Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak said the 1.25% national insurance rise will help clear the NHS backlog. A man in his 20s has been arrested on suspicion of rape and assault after Manchester United suspended the footballer Mason Greenwood following allegations on social media. Greater Manchester Police say they are aware of online social media images and videos posted by a woman reporting incidents of physical violence. Manchester United have announced that Greenwood will not train or play for the Premier League club until further notice. Mr. Greenwood has yet to respond to the allegations. Relatives of the victims of Bloody Sunday have held a remembrance walk in Northern Ireland to mark its 50th anniversary. It's one of a number of events being held in the city of Londonderry. 13 people were killed when members of the British Army's Parachute Regiment opened fire on a civil rights march on the 30th of January 1972. Around 7,000 homes are still without power this evening due to Storm Malik impacting parts of the UK. High winds caused structural damage and ruptured power lines, with 2 people losing their lives yesterday due to falling trees. A new weather front now called Storm Corrie is affecting northern parts of the country. Amber weather warnings have been issued and winds of up to 80 miles an hour are expected in Scotland. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex say they'll continue to work with the music site Spotify despite the airing of vaccine-sceptical views on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Harry and Meghan have a content deal with the streaming platform estimated to be worth around £18 million. The couple's charity Archerwell says they've expressed concerns about misinformation in the past and will work with the platform to ensure changes. Joni Mitchell and Neil Young requested their music to be removed from the platform. Spotify now says it's working to add a content advisory to any podcast episode which includes a discussion about COVID-19. On your TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. Now more from Mark Dolan and Tonight.
Now, before I bring my Mark Meets guest onto the show, it's time now for my take at 10. Not satisfied with carving up our main roads for bike lanes, which for hours on end sit there empty, only to cause horrific traffic and pollution from queuing cars, the government are seeing how else they can punish our highly taxed drivers. A major overhaul of the highway code came into force yesterday in a bid to improve road safety for cyclists and pedestrians. The new guidance includes a hierarchy of road users with, surprise, surprise, drivers predictably at the bottom of the pile. Most people in a car are on their way to work, delivering something, or in myriad other ways, supporting the unstoppable powerhouse that is the British economy. Now, I'm all for cycling. It's cheap, good for your health, and fabulous for the planet. I want our great cities of Cardiff, Belfast, Manchester, Glasgow, Birmingham, Liverpool, and London to be the most bicycle-friendly places on Earth. It's great for kids too. However, although those bicycle borrowing schemes have been a great success around the country, none of these measures should be at the expense of car drivers who pay their road tax, insurance, they service their cars, they pay for MOTs, and of course they pour billions into the Treasury every time they stick some unleaded into their Ford Focus. The idea of cyclists hogging a country lane by being encouraged to ride in the middle of the road, creating tailbacks that could quadruple the length of a normal journey, is just balmy. The Department for Transport says the changes seek to improve the safety of those most at risk on our roads. But I worry that it will create road rage. It will slow people down, and it doesn't make any practical sense. Roads are infrastructure, and they are there to efficiently get people from A to B. If people are late for meetings, if they miss flights, or aren't able to deliver important goods because they've got stuck behind a bloke in Lycra who's having a midlife crisis, then this will be a disaster. The other concern is that these changes make car drivers the guilty party in the event of any collision, which you know, as well as I do, is deeply unfair given the crazy things that some people do on bicycles, including jumping red lights and weaving in and out of traffic like they're Bradley Bloody Wiggins. And I think this change is bad news for cyclists too. Drivers are already confused about what the rules are, and they'll be slamming on the brakes every 10 seconds, ultimately placing cyclists and other road users in great physical peril. I fear the only winners from this bonkers new set of rules will be paramedics, A&E departments, and injury lawyers. You know, the guys that say, where there's blame, there's a claim. For those greedy ambulance chasers, it's all just a game. Well, the game is up for common sense on this one. The highway code worked perfectly well as it was for decades. But here we go again with more state interference in our lives. So it's time for a U-turn on the new highway code. To the misguided, pen-pushing bureaucrats who clearly know nothing about the chaos on our roads, I've got 3 words for you. On your bike. So what do you think on that? Mark at gbnews.uk. Do you understand the highway code? Is it working for you, whether you're a cyclist or a motorist or a pedestrian, or if you're on horseback? Do let me know. It's time now for Mark Meets, in which I meet the biggest names in the world of entertainment, sport, business, academia, politics and beyond, plus those who simply have a big story to tell. Tonight, on the eve of the Premier League's transfer deadline day, I'm delighted to welcome one of the top football agents in the country, Sky Andrew, who has represented Jermaine Pennant, Jay Bothroyd, David Ginola, Jermaine Defoe, Sol Campbell, as well as iconic boxer Frank Bruno and a range of TV and radio stars in the world of showbiz. Sky is award-winning too. As the first licensed black British football agent, he won a Barclays Bank Man of Merit Award and was named the BEA Entrepreneur of the Year. And he's had quite the life. Born in Upton Park to a London bus driver father and a mother who worked in an East End pie factory, he was quite the athlete. He represented Great Britain at the 1988 Seoul Olympics in table tennis doubles. He won 3 Commonwealth Table Tennis Championship gold medals and retired from competitive table tennis after the 1994 European Championships. It's all in the wrist action. Sky Andrew, welcome to GB News.
Where's my Oscar?
Well, it's under the desk. Now listen, let's see which hand it was.
Left.
Left hand. So you're a left-handed table tennis player.
Yeah, and I was also a bit too tall, really. You know, because most of the best players in the world, they were quite short. so that they could get around the table.
Agile.
Yeah, whereas I was swinging from side to side like the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. Were you like the Peter Crouch of table tennis?
No, I was a bit more cooler than Crouchy. Plus, I didn't do the robots. So.
No robot. I'm glad to hear that.
No.
How did you get into table tennis? Before we get to football agenting, I think it's the most amazing backstory that you are a very successful sportsman in your own right. Probably serves you well as an agent, but how did you get into table tennis?
From school, really. A guy used to come around on a bike every week and teach us how to play, and I used to do some funny spins, and he said to me, I think you're really good. Sent me to a boys' club, and then I started playing every night from the age of about 13, and the rest is history.
So was the table at school, the table tennis table at school? Or did you have one
No,
at
at
home?
school.
And you say he came on a bike?
Yeah.
Was he a table tennis teacher that visited the
Coach,
school?
yeah. The legend,
brilliant.
Len Hoffman, he used to go to all the schools in East London, and he came to our school, and he saw that I had a bit of a skill for it, but from the time I started, I was in the county team within 2 or 3 years, and then after that, 2 years later, I was in the national team. So, I was meant to play table tennis.
And it's a good reminder that when accomplished, successful, skilled people visit schools, it can be very inspiring or life-changing for the kids.
No, it was, because he used to come around on his bike and we used to look forward to seeing him. And we had tables there and he'd come in and he'd make us play all these games. He made it fun. And plus in the winter, we didn't want to have to go outside. Yeah. It was cold. I played football, I played cricket, I did high jump, I ran the 100 metres, but I soon realised that I wanted to be nice and warm.
Yeah,
playing ping pong.
Very sensible. Now, you were a bit tall for the game, but what skill set did you have? What were you good at as a table tennis player?
Eye to ball coordination, and then I learned how to do the Chinese serves. The Chinese used to throw the ball up and spin it, and I went to China and learned how to do that serve.
Did you? How old were you when you went to China?
Well, actually, I learned how to do the serves before, but I went to China the year before the Olympics, so I was in my early 20s.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And was it also, I mean, how did it fit with your life playing table tennis as a kid growing up? I mean, was it a sort of welcome source of entertainment?
No, do you know what? I thank my mum, really, because when I said to her I wanted to play table tennis, she didn't quiver, she just said to me, OK then. And she was earning around 30 quid a week in a pie factory, and she used to give me 15 a week to go and play table tennis, because I used to have to travel and expenses and everything, and everyone thought she was mad. But
she gave half her salary so that you could do table tennis. And at that point, she had no hope that you'd be at the Olympics or anything like that.
No.
That would have been a pipe dream.
No. And then she used to give me 15 quid a week, and she used to do extra hours. She used to do like 50, 60 hours in the pie factory, and she was on a conveyor belt, and then she hurt her heart doing it, and then she had to retire early. And so it's been my life's mission to look after her. And sadly, I lost her 4 years ago, but she was my inspiration to anybody. I'd say, just chase your dream, whatever it is. A lot of parents are guided by whether there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Yeah. There was no chance of me ever earning any money from playing table tennis. We used to earn 15 quid a day, even when I was in the England team.
What is the hardest aspect of table tennis?
The speed. Like if you watch tennis, you can see the ball going across. But in table tennis, it's very quick. So if you're one little bit off your game, then you'll lose. But it's such a quick game. It's reactive. You've got to be on it. You can't, for 1 minute, lose your focus, because you'll lose 3 or 4 points.
Now, this might have some of my viewers chuckling, but have you got to be an athlete to play table tennis?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the funny jokes we used to have. Whenever I used to go anywhere, people would say, what do you do? I'd say, I'm a professional table tennis player. And then they say, yeah, but what do you do for a proper job? Yeah. And we used to train 4 or 5 hours a day, and the specific fitness of table tennis is unbelievable. You've got to do this speed, and you've got to keep going, and it's a specific fitness that no other athlete could do it. The speed over such a short. So
you've got certain exercise regimes that help with your dexterity.
Yeah, the famous one was called Falkenberg, which was created by the Swedes, because the Swedes were really good when I was playing. Yeah. And it's basically backhand, forehand. Then you come back around again, you play a backhand, and you just keep going, and you're pouring with sweat. Yeah. And literally, I used to train 4 or 5 hours a day. We've got all these exercises that are just based around the table, but along with that, you've got to do other fitness. So you've got to run 3-4 miles a day. You've got to do stuff which people wouldn't expect you to do, but you have to have an aerobic fitness and you have to have a specific fitness.
And what about the fact that you were left-handed? Is that common in the sport?
You really like that left-handed thing,
I'm
don't you?
fascinated by
Are you
it.
left-handed?
No, I'm right-handed,
Oh,
you
yeah.
see. And it just feels so counterintuitive, obviously, to have the racket in the other hand. But to you, it was second nature. I mean, does it make a difference? Does it matter if you're left-handed?
No, it did in table tennis because very few people were left-handed.
Was it an advantage in some way?
It was, yeah. People used to hate, well, because most of the players were right-handed.
Yeah. They didn't quite know what the ball was going to do.
Well, it's funny because in table tennis, when you play doubles, you have to have a right-hander and a left-hander. Because one hits the ball and the other person hits the ball. It isn't like tennis where you could just stand there playing.
Yeah.
So me and Des Douglas played doubles in the Olympics and we were both left-handed.
Amazing.
So I don't know how we got to the Olympics. I don't know how we beat some of the best players in the world because we was knocking into each other and everything.
Yeah.
That was
out of the way. This is my ball. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, that's obviously what I do when I play with my kids. But it's a remarkable thing. Is there any money in it? Did you make money from table tennis?
No. No. And this is, again, you know, why I loved what my mum did so much, because we came from a very poor background. Yeah. She couldn't really afford it, but she found a way. We didn't really make any money. But in my mind, I was always thinking I had something to do after table tennis. I remember when I was at the Olympics, Carol Thatcher interviewed me.
Margaret Thatcher's daughter, who was a TV presenter.
Yeah, and she got all this stuff out of me. Next thing, it's in the Daily Mail, because I used to send scripts to Spit and Image, I used to write sitcoms, I used to write comedy and send it off in my spare time.
You're a bit of a hustler, aren't you?
I'm a hustler, baby. I just want you to know.
You're always selling.
I'm a hustler, baby. I just want you to... No, I'm not always selling.
And sky's the limit.
I'm not that guy, you know. I mean, don't forget, I created the biggest platform for inspirational women in the UK, one of the biggest inspiration awards for women.
Yeah, which has been a huge deal and a great, as you say, a great
So
way.
I'm not just hustling.
No way. You're celebrating as well, aren't you? Yeah, and acknowledging. And I guess that devotion to women, that respect for women is rooted in your feelings about your mother and what she did for you.
About,
your dear mum. What were her thoughts, her emotions when you reached the Olympics?
No, I mean, she didn't really understand what it was all about, but all she'd ask me was, did you win?
Yeah.
And I'd say yes or no. And then when I went to the Olympics, she said to me, did you win? And I went, no. She went, never mind, son. But I remember at the opening ceremony, can you imagine, there's thousands of people on
and it was
the field.
a great Olympics.
Yeah, and my mum actually saw me. She saw me in the crowd and she shed a tear and that. So that was a great moment.
Do you think that table tennis is trivialised and disrespected in this country or underrated because it's massive in Asia?
Yeah, it's massive in Asia, but table tennis isn't the only sport that's
well, I know you're involved in a couple of other ones, aren't you, now? But don't you think it deserves a bit of a big up, table tennis? Because it's a great spectator sport, isn't it?
It does. And it is a fascinating sport. And most people watch sport and they want someone to win. So the problem we've got with table tennis in this country is that if you don't know the characters, you don't know who you want to win. Yeah. But many sports don't get enough airtime. It's good to see that there are female sports like netball getting airtime because that's a women's sport. Table tennis is interesting, but we're going to need a few more characters before we get more airtime.
Plenty of characters in football. You are a top football agent. How did you get into agenting?
Well, I mean, we used to train at the National Sports Centre, Lillishall, and Sol Campbell was there with the Under-16 School of Excellence, and we met, and we were talking, and we were both from East London, and then we became friends and I became his agent. When I stopped playing, he said to me, will you represent me? And I'd sort of been representing myself in table tennis because when you're in a minority sport, you can't be a minority personality. You've got to really push yourself out there. So I learned all my skills from playing table tennis, and then I started representing Sol in the mid-90s.
Sol Campbell, of course, one of the most gifted defenders of his generation.
Yeah.
He went through the Spurs Academy, of course. I remember this vividly because I'm a Spurs fan.
You know, being a Spurs fan.
I do. And he was definitely a hero. There was quite a long period where it seemed he would stay with Tottenham, but he didn't sign a new contract. He went to Arsenal on a free transfer.
Yeah.
And, of course, there was a lot of resentment at the time, but you as the agent were just doing your job.
Resentment? I mean, that's
an understatement.
That was an understatement, yeah. I mean, at that time, I don't know whether it's because I come from East London and my upbringing. You know,
Are you a Hammer, by the way?
I just see... No, I support Watford.
OK.
But I just see money
keep that one quiet.
I just see money as monopoly money. I don't really... Because if you actually try to understand exactly what the numbers are and what it can do for you, then it makes you not think in a focused way. So at Spurs, it was purely that I said to all the clients, you have to honour your contract. If someone brings you something that's that you want to sign, you sign it. And so was at Spurs. You know, I had my murders with Alan Sugar then, who was the chairman. And me and him had murders then, but actually now we'd be getting all right.
Well, it's business, isn't it?
I've got big respect for him because he was actually very straight. And in a game where sometimes there's a bit of ducking and diving, me and him had really frank conversations.
What, you and Daniel Levy? Or you and Mr. Lord Sugar?
Me and Lord Sugar. Lord Sugar is the last person I would have imagined to be on TV. In fact, two people, Piers Morgan and Lord Sugar, who I've both known for a million years, when I see him on TV, I'm like, what are you two doing on TV?
Well, that's something I always think as well, but we've got that in common. Yeah, that's it. Well, they obviously, you know, Piers being a journalist and Lord Sugar being an entrepreneur, so you can't have imagined that they would become TV stars, right?
Because Piers, I used to sit in his office, he used to poke fun at all the celebrities, and now he's interviewing them.
Yeah, that's it. And he's one of them in a way.
He is now. Lord Sugar was someone that, he just wasn't that guy. He was a hustler. He's a very straight-speaking guy, but he wasn't a schmoozer.
And not a performer.
No. And he didn't like people schmoozing either. So, and no, he's still not schmoozing now, but he's a global TV star.
What is the required skill of a top football agent? What do you do for your clients?
The thing is that it's negotiation all of the time. Right. A lot of people think that when you're an agent, you're just picking up the phone and saying, how many millions you're going to give me? But you have to negotiate positions with different people. So you have to negotiate a position with your client. What does your client want to achieve? Is it an obtainable ambition? If it's not, and you have to negotiate all different situations. I mean, I used to negotiate everything for Sol Campbell. And once I negotiated a floor for him with this guy. Yeah. And then the guy came back on his second house and said, look, I just don't want to negotiate with you anymore. You can have it for that price. So...
See, and that's how you do it. No messing around.
No, but negotiation isn't easy. A lot of people think in a negotiation, you go high, they go low, and you meet in the middle. But it's not that straightforward. You have to do your research. When you're negotiating something, you have to know the parameters. Because if you don't know the parameters, people won't respect you. If you know that a car in a showroom, they've got it up for 25 grand, but you know that their cost price is 20 grand, you can try and get it for 21, 22. If you say to them, I'll give you 17, they'll just laugh because they know that you don't know the parameters.
A fascinating conversation. Zoe, shall we carry this over the break? I think it's a fascinating conversation. What I'm going to do is raise some really other massive issues in the world of football with Sky Andrew, the top football agent, including whether footballers in the Premier League should be forced to have the vaccine, whether taking the knee is the right move to promote racial acceptance and tolerance. And I'll bring my panel in as well. And just how high could footballers' wages get? We'll discuss that, plus more stories from the news agenda. Are Harry and Meghan hypocrites when it comes to Spotify censorship? Plus another great British game show. It's all happening. I'll see you in 2.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking rather chilly with a brisk wind and good sunny spells. Looking at the details, skies cloudy at times in the southwest, but there will be some bright spells as well, perhaps the odd shower. Chilly in the morning in the brisk wind. Further east, it'll be a brighter morning, but rather windy, particularly along the coast. And despite the chill in the air, there shouldn't be any frost. Some glimmers of sunshine in Wales on Monday morning, but skies clouding over at times. A mostly dry start, any showers moving through on a keen wind. A bright and breezy start in the northwest of England, just the odd shower passing through. It will be chilly too at the start, but the keen wind will keep the frost at bay. Winds will be stronger in the northeast on Monday morning as Storm Corrie begins to move away. There could be some gusts of wind at about 50 to 60 miles an hour at first, but they will gradually ease. Also, a windy start in Scotland as Storm Corrie moves into the North Sea. There could be some debris on the roads as well in the morning, so take care if you're travelling. A breezy start in Northern Ireland, sunny spells and showers. You want to wrap up warm as well, and it will feel cold in the wind. So Storm Corrie then moving away through Monday morning and those winds easing. However, it will be still a fairly breezy day, and that's how the weather's shaping up during tomorrow morning.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
So many views coming in across a range of topics, including the big opinion, which is now online. I've called it, folks. It's time for Boris to go. That's my view. I want Rishi Sunak at number 10 because I think he has smashed it at number 11. I think it's time for a grown-up in the room. But what's your thought? Mark at gbnews.uk. Julia's not happy. Well, Mark, after all that smug ranting, it seems you do have alcohol swilling around the studio, smug laughter. Well, Julia, they're, I think, not supportive of the idea of getting rid of Boris. And lots of you think we should keep Boris. Others think that he's had his day. On the issue of teaching 5-year-olds about racism in the classroom, Bill says, hi, Mark, children do not have a racist thought in their minds. And for this council to even think of this is mind-boggling. That's from Bill in Glasgow. Janice, bit radical, I know. But wouldn't it be lovely if teachers taught reading and writing so we don't have people leaving school who can just about manage to write their own names? Let kids be kids, for crying out loud. Well, there you go. And lots of suggestions coming in for who the next Prime Minister should be. I'm getting a lot of votes for Penny Mordaunt. Could it be a white horse candidate? I should say a dark horse candidate. I think a white horse is a whiskey, but there you go. Now let's crack on, because still with me is my Mark Meets guest, the top football agent, Sky Andrew. Now, Sky, what about footballers' wages? How high can they go?
Well, we're going to see them go sky high with one particular player, Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah.
Players' value is estimated by the clubs, but if a player has got a huge value and they see out their contract like it looks like Kylian Mbappe.
So where does Mbappe play?
He's at PSG. Mm-hmm. He's worth around 200 million. He's going to go out of contract. Teams are rumoured to be interested in him, like Real Madrid. Now, if Real Madrid sign him, they'll have to give him over a 5-year contract, 100 million minimum signing on fee. Then they'll have to give him 20, 25, 30 million a year. So he's going to be the highest paid footballer of all time. Now, I know that the public will say, why are players being paid 200, 300 grand a week, which is the norm now at the big clubs? It's because of the money they're getting from TV. You know, they're getting, most clubs in the Premier League are getting between 100 and 175 million. And then they get all the money in from the European leagues as well. Where do they put the money? The money's got to go to the main protagonists in the sport.
They generate the income.
Which are the footballers.
Because the fans, we pay to watch Harry Kane and Mbappe and all those other stars. So they deserve a slice of the pie.
It's all about demand and supply. There's such a massive demand for football. And if you're one of the best footballers and the going rate is 300,000 a week, then that's what you're going to be paid. I think a lot of the fans have got issue with players that they don't deem to be that great getting 170. But at the end of the day, you've got more chance of winning the lottery than being a professional footballer. And if you're in the game that generates billions, and it is billions, then it's only right you should be paid the going rate.
Yeah, it's like a movie star. Let's say Tom Cruise, he gets a chunk of the box office from Mission Impossible because people buy the tickets for Tom Cruise.
Yeah, there seems to be this everyone's ganging up on footballers saying they earn too much money. But no one says anything about Tom Cruise or Elton John. You know, they generate the income and they get paid accordingly.
Yeah, for sure. Although, do you think there's an argument for salary caps so that the money can go back into the game rather than their pockets?
Why don't we start with capping your salary first? We'll cap it at 2.5 million.
Moving swiftly on. Is it time for an ad break? Well, that's it. I guess that's the point, is that it's against market forces, right?
It's against market forces. And I don't know why people want to cap footballers' wages and not anyone else. It's demand and supply. If the industry generates the money, then the main people should get the money.
And Sky, you don't think there's anything dysfunctional or unhealthy about the business model of football? Because I fear, for example, for the health of the clubs. Sometimes they have these massive contracts, the player doesn't deliver, and it puts them under financial pressure.
Well, you see, this is where opinions come into it. Newcastle have got new owners.
Yeah.
Then everyone's talking about Newcastle have got super rich owners. Let's show your ambition, spend money. But you don't always get what you pay for.
No.
And the focus should be on spending money. It should be on recruiting the best players around the world. There's a skill to recruiting players. Anyone can go out and spend, but can you recruit the right players and the best players?
Well, we saw a great club like Leeds fall down several divisions because they overstretched themselves financially, didn't they? They had that one season where they made the Champions League under David O'Leary's management, but the club pretty much went bankrupt, didn't it?
But that's to do with decision making. See, if you've got money and you buy the right players and you get the right manager and you galvanise the team, you're not going to go down. You're going to perform at a top level. This is the fascinating thing with football, is that people look at Pep Guardiola and say, great manager. He's a great manager, and he's a great manager with great players. But not every manager is good with great players.
Yeah.
So it's all about opinions, decisions, and clubs that make bad decisions, they go down. Clubs that make good decisions, they stay up.
But what about the inequality between clubs? So you look at Burnley versus Man City. It's not a level playing field, is it?
It's not.
Is that a problem?
No, it's not. But still, it comes down to opinions. You see clubs like Leicester. Leicester recruited Mahrez and Kante. Just found them in the French league. And these guys have gone on to be amazing players. So it's not that you've got the money. It's that you've got good recruitment with the right opinions. So the good thing with football is that even if you've got more money, it doesn't automatically mean that you're going to do better than someone else. Because it's all about recruitment, managers, galvanising the team.
And some of the best players in the Premier League were not expensive signings.
No.
I mean, Harry Kane cost Tottenham nothing because he came from the academy.
Look how excited you got then, being a Spurs supporter.
Yeah,
Harry
well,
Kane cost nothing.
I'd just forgotten about Sol Campbell, and then that name came back into my head. By the way, what a great athlete and a great star he is. So, you know, no hard feelings from my point of view. Good luck to the guy.
But there's plenty of hard feelings from
that said, he's not the most popular character in certain parts of North London. Well, let's bring my panel in because we've got some proper footy pedigree in my panel tonight, because we've got Benjamin Loughnane, who is a broadcaster and policy think tank executive. We've also got comedian Tommy Sandu. And we've got Lizzie Cundy, who is an uber Chelsea fan and a wag, of course, at least a former wag, married to Chelsea and Spurs star and now presenter on TalkSport Radio, Jason Cundy. Lizzie, have you got a question for Sky Andrew?
She's my friend. She better have a good question.
Sky, look, we've known each other for years and years, but do you not worry about footballers after football? Because I've known many of them, from Gaza, Neil Ruddock, even my own husband, where they go after. Because when that phone stops ringing, what do they do? And like you said, you do everything for them. You get their flooring, their house, their cars. I mean, it is quite difficult for them because they've done football from the age of 7. Where do they go next after football? And is there enough aftercare? I'm not feeling sorry for footballers, but there's a lot of mental health issues, which, you know, we're all aware of.
It's a really big problem in football. When players finish, some of them just fall off a cliff. But what players are going to do is to take responsibility for who they've got round them. And once they hit mid-20s, they have to be thinking about what they're going to be doing after football. if you've got the right people around you, they will help you start to develop so that when you stop playing at 32, 33, you go smoothly into your next life. But footballers spend most of their life not playing football. So it's just ironic that when they finish football, they don't think about what they're going to do. They've got to find the right people to have around them and start building for the future as early as possible.
They can't all be pundits, can they? And back in the day, footballers used to buy pubs. I think Sir Alex Ferguson was a publican before he went into management.
But that's right. But Alex Ferguson actually said to me he encouraged footballers to marry young because he didn't want them on the front of the papers, you know, coming out of clubs and with women and so forth. And he really encouraged them to get you. Look at Alex, you know, the Gerrards, Wayne Rooney, all got married very, very young. Is that something that Sky still instilled in football?
So there are certain sort of unwritten rules in football where clubs do tend to say to players, get married young because it will give you stability. It will give some players stability and it doesn't work with other players. But players have to take responsibility for who's around them. And if you take responsibility for who's around you and then you find something to be interested in, people think it's about money, not just about money, it's about why are you getting up in the morning? See, footballers know they get up in the morning, they play on Saturday, they train during the week. What's going to make you get out of bed when you finish playing football? That's the important thing.
That's a brilliant, brilliant point, and that, I think, speaks volumes about your qualities as not just an agent, but a manager of your talent as well, and perhaps with a good influence in their lives. What do you think, before I come to my other panellists, about taking the knee in the Premier League and at the World Cup, Sky?
See, the thing is that it's a symbolic thing that all of the players decided to do. I think now we're getting to the stage where it's been going for a while. It's down to the clubs now, each club to say whether they feel it's still a symbolic thing to do. A lot of the players feel strongly about taking the knee. There's still some racism in stadiums, and people talk about players walking off the pitch. Players shouldn't have to walk up off the pitch. There's enough technology to find the people in the stands and let them go out the stands.
Although, do you think there's been a difference between how fans have received the Kick It Out, the Kick Racism Out of Football campaign versus taking the knee? Because I don't remember Kick It Out being so controversial or divisive. Do you think? I mean, is there a difference?
Well, I mean, there's red top and there's broadsheet, isn't it? I mean, red top is headlines and gets to much more people. And to be fair, taking the knee is red top. You know, it's a statement that everybody can see visually. Kick It Out do a great job, but they've had to work a lot harder to get people interested in what they're doing, whereas all of the players taking the knee is symbolic and everybody sees it as clear as day.
And there, of course, have been footballers in the Premier League and elsewhere of a black and a minority ethnic background who have chosen not to take the knee. And in an interview last year, John Barnes told me that he wouldn't take the knee if he was a player now because he thinks it's an empty gesture. Not that racism isn't the most awful thing that must be addressed, but that's not the way to do it. I mean, is that a view you've ever taken? How do you react to the booing?
John Barnes is a legend, yeah, and he says what people think. Modern day racism is thinking something and doing something else. It's not acceptable, so some people may think something and do something else. But it's a symbolic gesture that has had an impact. Some people want to see it make more of an impact, but how? You know, everyone's doing it. Everyone knows that people have come together to fight against racism. But I think that people need to see, the fans need to see people being ejected from stadiums. That's another symbol that will work.
Tommy Sandu,
yes.
Are you a happy hammer?
Yeah, I am. And actually, I'm from East Ham, born and raised in East Ham. We're not far from Skye. And
the ends.
And you know what our ends were like throughout the 80s and even 90s, and what it can even be like now. And I remember my dad not taking us to West Ham games, not supporting football in the house because it was a racist place. And look, you know, Mark, I've been bashed, I've been chased in the street. I remember being about 7, 8 years old when someone shouted the first racial slur at me and my mum walking along, you know, people spitting at us. I remember all those times in the 80s. And then they're not nice memories. And we were talking earlier on about educating 7 or 8 year olds about racism. And I'm like, let's forget the 7 or 8 year olds because they're actually innocent. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why these people are calling us these names when I was that age. walking along the street just with my mum and feeling scared for our safety, scared for our life, and knowing I couldn't protect my mum. I was a kid. It's a horrible feeling. So I'd start with I want to see that the knee is developed into educating footballers, educating football fans, and educating people in the stands about what you can and can't say and why you can't say that. Because on the receiving end of it, it's not just the name. It's not just kind of go, you're a fat this or you're a ball this or whatever. You can take that. But when you get a racist slur, you fear for your safety. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. So I think that education that they're applying to curriculums for 7 or 8-year-olds needs to be brought to people in the stands.
And also, if we really want to make a difference with regards to racism, we need more people from ethnic backgrounds, more black people around the decision-making table, around boardrooms. We need more black people, more people from different ethnics making the decision or being part of the decision. If you don't know where people have come from, it's very difficult to understand it. You need people that have been on that journey to be in the boardroom and around the decision-making table.
Benjamin, the clock's against us, but your thoughts on this?
Well, I think in general, the sort of taking the knee as a symbol, you say it's a symbolic thing. I find it's a symbolic thing of sort of submission. It's not a positive sign. I think we need more positive signs to fight against it. I think a lot of people take issue with it because taking the knee as a image, it's not the right messaging. I think we talk about kick racism out of football. I think we need to kick politics out of football to some degree, because politicising the sport only makes people more divided. It only causes more division. I find, you see this over the past few years. I think we've seen an increase rather than a decrease. And if we took the positive steps without necessarily the symbols, like you said, more representation in the boardrooms, etc., I think that'd do a lot more good than kneeling at the beginning of every match, which I think just, for most people, seems like an impotent gesture which doesn't really achieve anything.
Sky, we've only got a couple of seconds left, and it's not an easy one to finish on. Should Premier League footballers be forced to have the vaccine to participate in the game?
Well, once the governing bodies make their statement and decide what they want people to do, it's up to each footballer whether or not they want to be vaccinated. But footballers who are not vaccinated have to understand that there may be repercussions from that.
Brilliant stuff. Sky, Andrew, what a privilege it has been to have you in the studio. Your story is amazing. And listen, thanks for coming. It's the busiest time of the year because it's the eve of transfer deadline day, and we know that you're going to be doing some deals. So thank you so much for making time to tell us your amazing story. Do come back and see us very soon. Are Harry and Meghan hypocritical about issues around misinformation and the pandemic? We'll talk about that very, very shortly. And another Great British Game Show. So much to come. See you in 2.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
So much to squeeze into the next 15 minutes. And don't forget, it's Headliners at 11. I'll be joined by two top comedians reacting to tomorrow's front pages. But still with me is my amazing panel, Tommy Sandu, Lizzie Cundy, and Benjamin Loughnane, the Lockmeister. Lockmeister, follow the bear. Now, Harry and Meghan have told the streaming giant Spotify they're concerned about what they call COVID misinformation on the platform. The Duke and Duchess signed a deal worth 18 million quid in 2020 to host and produce podcasts, although they've only produced one so far. A number of artists have boycotted Spotify due to content such as the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, which has been known to air vaccine-skeptical views. A spokesman for Harry and Meghan's Archwell Foundation said last April our co-founders began expressing concerns to our partners at Spotify about the all-too-real consequences of COVID-19 misinformation on its platform. We have continued to express our concerns to Spotify to ensure changes to its platform are made to help address this public health crisis. We look to Spotify to meet this moment and are committed to continuing our work together as it does. But tonight, Spotify's CEO, the boss, has announced plans to add a content advisory to any podcast that talks about COVID-19. Daniel Ek said, "It's important to me that we don't take on the position of being content censor, whilst also making sure that there are rules in place and consequences for those who violate them." Well, Lizzie, this concerns me, because I think this is Harry and Meghan doing censorship. Why can't a podcast debate vaccines and whether they're a good idea or not?
Exactly. Freedom of speech. I thought that was what Meghan was all about.
Well, she's an old friend of yours. You
Well-
and she were very, very close friends. You helped her a lot when she came to the UK because she was an unknown star in this country, having just been in Suits, which I'm not
Indeed.
sure was even on British TV.
No.
You got her on the red carpet and you were text buddies and she dropped you.
She did. Ghosted me. I wasn't on my own with Piers Morgan as well. But I did help her along the way. And, but I understand it. Celebrity life's very different from royal life. So I do get it. I'm not a bitter, twisted friend, as many say.
Of course you're not.
But I have to say with these guys, look, to me, they're Mr. and Mrs. Sussex. They left the royal family. I don't think anyone is actually interested in what they have to say anymore. They said they wanted privacy. Well, then stop doing the books, the TV interviews. For me, for one, I feel they're in it for the money and I'm not interested anymore. And I say that from the heart, and I feel a lot of people agree with me. And it isn't because she ghosted me, Mark. But I just think, it's not true to what it's freedom of speech. We can all talk of how we feel about the vaccines or anything in life.
Well, isn't that the point, Benjamin? I mean, in the course of this pandemic, have regularly said, thank God for Joe Rogan. Many of my viewers may not know who this guy is, but just explain the importance of his role in the conversation around COVID.
The cultural cut-through of Joe Rogan is immeasurable. It's so far beyond mainstream legacy media. He has a reach which you can't even quantify. He goes beyond most TV stations. The big networks in America don't have as much reach. He has a huge amount of influence. That's why people are so upset about it, because he's platforming views that they don't necessarily agree with. But he's not just platforming those views, he's platforming other views as well. He's had people on who have said the opposite to him, who've said to him, as when he said things about the vaccine, have said, well, Joe, you're an MMA fighter and a TV host or whatever, you're not the CDC.
Yeah. Where's your degree in epidemiology?
So, exactly, he's had that. He's also had people like Dr. Robert Malone, who invented the mRNA vaccine, on, who says, maybe you take it if you need it, if you're in a vulnerable category, but you don't necessarily need to mandate it.
Robert Malone, who is critical about the idea of mass vaccination and young, healthy people, which is a perfectly reasonable debate to have. This is a guy who himself is double vaccinated, by the way.
Yeah, and he's not a fringe conspiracy theorist. He's a very well-respected scientist. He's an expert in the field. he just says things that some people don't like, and so they've got to be in their bonnet about it. I just don't.
Are you
understand
disappointed
the
by
outrage.
this content warning from Spotify? Because so far they've been very brave and they've stood up for free speech. But I'm not sure I want a content warning. I think I'm big and ugly enough to handle anything that I listen to.
Well, look, I'm against content warnings, but it's better than having the episodes taken down or Joe Rogan taken off Spotify. When he was on YouTube, he was getting episodes taken down by YouTube, so he moved over to Spotify, in part, I think, to have the freedom to platform certain ideas. But all of this is backfiring. The more of a fuss you make about Joe Rogan, the more people are going to go and watch it, the more people are going to go and listen to it. So if they keep talking about, oh, Joe Rogan is platforming all of these people who have alternative views, people go, oh, I wonder what those views are. I'll go and listen to it, they might change their mind.
Tommy?
I'm hoping there's a little collab on the cards. I mean, this is a clever Spotify plan to get Prince Has-Been and me again onto Joe Rogan's podcast, because this would be great. It'd be a great little cross, and then everyone will be on Spotify doing it. But I don't think that's behind it. I think they are spouting it off. You're right, there is massive hypocrisy. I've been a fan of Joe Rogan for years. I have my own podcast, the Tommy Sandu podcast.
Which, by the way, is much better than Joe Rogan.
Well, I'm kind of like...
First of all, you've got bigger guns.
Yes, Look at that. Pow! Pow! But no, he's in good shape.
You're much funnier.
But he's a stand-up comedian. He's a great guy, and he's doing great things because he questions it, and he represents the people, the everyday person. I'd be happy to be like the Indian Joe Rogan. I could be Joe Rogan Josh. What do you reckon?
I like it. I like it.
You give me anything that sounds like a curry.
Yeah, I know. I can tell by your jeans and the little stain you got on the right side. He had a curry earlier on, Mark did. He really did.
Actually.
He really did.
You don't want to see the stains on my trousers, Tommy Sandu.
But it's another show,
Not again. No, but what I mean is he's questioned things all throughout his career, and he has on, as Ben said, he has on people with different opinions to him, and he openly says, he goes, look, I'm an idiot because I don't know. I'm working this out. He's open to questioning it.
Once as like a Mongol warlord who just summons wise men from all parts of the world and just sits there and goes, so tell me, why do stars move in sky?
Yeah, exactly.
He's not actually got an opinion himself.
No.
He just wants to hear what everyone else has to say. And I think platforming ideas is never a bad thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, too right. Well, it's all about free speech on Spotify, and it certainly is here at GB News. Let's get to our final story. And it's quite a fantastic one, actually. Well done to my team for spotting this, because it's well worth a bit of a laugh. It's time for this. Yes, it's time for the Great British Game Show. Fans of actress Ana de Armas have sued the filmmakers for the film yesterday after they cut her from the final version. This inspired us to play a game of The First Cut is the Deepest. Which other performers have been left on the cutting room floor? Let's see if my panel and you at home can guess which films these famous faces have been cut from. Let's start with, and I've got the game here, which is very, very exciting, carefully crafted by my team. How about this one? Rick Mail. What film was he cut from?
Oh. Gosh, I didn't know he was in a movie.
He was cut. He was in a fantasy film written by a controversial author who's considered transphobic now.
Oh, no way. He was cut from
Harry Potter. Rick Mail, a genius of comedy acting,
brilliant.
was in Harry Potter, but sadly didn't make the
We would
cut.
have loved him in Harry Potter.
Great.
He would have been marvellous as a funny goblin. How about Harrison Ford? What was he cut from? He's been in almost everything.
Ooh, it must be an early movie, something.
There was a creepy. It was a sci-fi movie from Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
With a small
E.T.
creature. Bingo. Glowing finger. Do you remember the glowing finger, Lizzie?
How can I forget?
How about this one? This is our next one. Princes William and Harry.
Oh.
What were they cut from?
Twins.
That wouldn't be a bad shout.
Okay, right.
Starring, was that Danny DeVito?
Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Let me tell you, Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Oh.
Now, I'm a big fan of Kevin Costner. Here he is, Kevin Costner, very handsome man, great actor. Which movie was Kevin Costner cut from? Now, this was an adult comedy in the 80s. It was about a bunch of...
What are you going to say then? From an adult comedy.
What happens is a bunch of college graduates, they go out and they have their lives and they reunite because a friend that they knew at college dies. Oh. And then they basically all shag each other, and it's quite entertaining. But anyway, he plays a dead body in this film, and the movie's called The Big Chill, but the problem is He gets cut from the movie.
Oh, man.
So he's in it, but then his agent's got to call him and say, I'm sorry, the gig is not yours. How about the brilliant actor Tim Roth? He was in... wait a minute, we've gone to Spacey. Forgive me, sorry, that's my bad. Kevin Spacey, which movie? Well, he's been cut from every movie.
I was going to say,
for the last 3 years.
been cut.
But Spacey was in... What movie was he in? And then he had to be replaced because of the scandal surrounding...
Not...
I remember this.
And Christopher Plummer replaced him in this movie. Christopher Plummer from Sound of Music. It was about the richest man in the world. It was All the Money in the World. All the Money in the World.
But also House of Cards.
Oh, he went from that as well. But do you know that they had to reshoot so much of All the Money in the World because he was in so much of it? OK, let's go to Tim Roth now from Reservoir Dogs. There he is. Which movie was he cut from? It's a Tarantino movie. The more recent one.
Django Unchained.
Once a Time in Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Sienna Miller. Beautiful lady.
Yes.
Fantastic actress. Any idea what she was cut from?
Hey.
Black Mass.
Right.
Yeah, well, it sounds like no loss.
Never knew.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
I think that was a good move.
I think it was.
That was a good cut. Paul Rudd. What movie? Of course, a brilliant comedy actor. Yeah. A very funny movie starring a lot of funny women. All about women getting married. Bridesmaids is the right answer. And this is the best one of all. Colin Firth, the best actor in the country. Yeah. But he was removed from a movie. Which one was it? A big movie.
James Bond?
No. He was supposed to be the voice of Paddington.
Wow. Oh, man.
But he lost the gig. But there you go.
Mark, can I throw in? I was cut from a Bollywood film. I was, Ae Dil Hai Mushkil, which is never going to get mentioned on GBNews.
Ae Dil Hai Mushkil. Stick around for headliners. Thanks for my panel.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking rather chilly with a brisk wind and good sunny spells. Looking at the details, skies cloudy at times in the southwest, but there will be some bright spells as well, perhaps the odd shower. Chilly in the morning in the brisk wind. Further east, it'll be a brighter morning, but rather windy, particularly along the coast. And despite the chill in the air, there shouldn't be any frost. Some glimmers of sunshine in Wales on Monday morning, but skies clouding over at times. A mostly dry start, any showers moving through on a keen wind. A bright and breezy start in the northwest of England, just the odd shower passing through. It will be chilly too at the start, but the keen wind will keep the frost at bay. Winds will be stronger in the northeast on Monday morning as Storm Corrie begins to move away. There could be some gusts of wind at about 50 to 60 miles an hour at first, but they will gradually ease. Also, a windy start in Scotland as Storm Corrie moves into the North Sea. There could be some debris on the roads as well in the morning, so take care if you're travelling. A breezy start in Northern Ireland, sunny spells and showers. You want to wrap up warm as well, and it will feel cold in the wind. So Storm Corrie then moving away through Monday morning and those winds easing. However, it will be still a fairly breezy day, and that's how the weather's shaping up during tomorrow morning.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farrar, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.